Hello, Silver Eagles. This is Jason Kling, Associate Principal. I'm here today to talk to you about some nuts and bolts for the 2024-25 school year. We'll ask that you play this video through. You'll see a lot of important information for the coming school year, plus the first couple of days of school. This presentation document that I'm going through will be shared with you as well. So you can access all of the links that I point out and go through today. And there will also be some time at our Welcome Back meeting on Wednesday to cover any questions that staff might have about any of the changes or just some of the logistics of coming back for the fall. And so you can see the topics that I'm going to cover listed here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the administrative focus, kind of who's doing what this year. We'll talk about some logistics for the first day of school. Some updates with Infinite Campus, with subbing and pay vouchers. I'll also walk you through some of the student handbook changes that our group came up with over the summer. We'll focus a little bit on behavior, and then finally wrap up with just a couple of things to check in your spaces about safety and security, and then some upcoming September dates that you can put on your calendar. Just for administration focus for the year, you'll see the 4 administrators listed here. The admin team just wanted to give you an idea of what departments we're primarily working with this year, just in terms of curriculum and for the most part evaluation. You'll see that Mitch, our principal, is going to be working with math, FCS, tech ed, and science. Those are the same departments he worked with last year. Melissa Hahn is going to be working with freshmen and 11th graders this year. And also supporting the English, World Language, and Special Ed departments. Again, same departments that she supported last year. I will be working with 10th and 12th graders this year and supporting social studies, art, music, and student services, which is again the same as I did last year. And then Joe Schneider, who's our AP and our AD for activities and extracurriculars, he will also be supporting business and marketing and Phi-Ed, which is again the department that he worked with last year. This year we will have grade level assemblies on the first day of school, just like we have the previous 2 years. We wanted staff to know this just for your planning. The first day of school during first hour and second hour, we'll have a rotation of grades that are going to come into the auditorium for a 30-minute assembly. In that, the administrators will cover kind of all of the key behavior expectations, some of the changes that are made for the school year with each grade. You'll see that first hour will start with 10th graders at 8:30. 9th graders will then start at 9:05. When we get into second hour, we'll have 11th graders at 10:15. And then our 12th graders will have a slightly longer assembly from 10:50 to 11:36. We'll also cover some things with student service about graduation and some things about some new programs in terms of college enrollments. In this document, you'll see a link for all of our class assignments. So you will actually be able to see during first or second hour which times that you are expected to bring a group to the auditorium for the assembly, because some of you have some classes with lots of different grades in it. And so you can click that link there just to see when we would ask that you bring your whole class or part of your class to the assembly to get that crucial information. We realize that is taking crucial time out of the first day of school, out of your classes. We did really feel it was super important last year and successful to get a common message and expectations to all of our students on the first day of school. So again, I encourage you to click that link just to see some information, more specific information about those grade level assemblies on the first day of school. Also on the first day of school, we'll have Chromebook distribution. All of our 9th graders will be getting their Chromebooks in their 1A classes. And so teachers, you will see Chromebooks delivered to your classroom with all the students' names. We just ask that you distribute to your freshmen the very beginning of 1A. We have a number of students that are new to Monona Grove that are not 9th graders. Please send those students to the IMC. So if you have students that are reporting to your 1A class and they do not have devices or logins because they're new, please send them to the IMC. They'll get their devices, their logins, and kind of get them squared away. One thing also our tech department will ask is that if you have any Chromebooks in your room that were not picked up by students during 1A, so those students were absent, you did not see them, please email the help desk with the names of those students, and they will pick up the Chromebooks from your room, and we will get those to the 1B teachers. So if those students are there the second day of school, we'll get them their Chromebooks, or if they come in later in the day, we're able to get them to them then. Also, if you have any students in general that just have some tech or login issues, please send them to the IMC at the beginning of the first day of school. We'll have some staff that can help them there. Yeah, any other questions, I would say definitely email the help desk if you have any issues or students are noticing any issues with their Chromebooks. There have been some updates in Infinite Campus that should make the creation and posting of grades much more streamlined and user-friendly for staff, students, and family. So Matthew McLaughlin created a really helpful step-by-step document for all pertinent Infinite Campus gradebook processes. So I would ask that you click on the link here in the presentation doc. We'll be talking more about this at our Welcome Back, but this will preview a little bit of some of the changes that you'll see about entering grades, posting grades, grade categories, some things like that. So it'd be probably smart just to take a look at that doc so you know generally kind of what's going to be spoken about when we come back during Welcome Back days. Some information about subbing, and this would be pertinent to everyone throughout the year. The one general note that I will say about subbing that is coming from Julie is that if and when you know that you need a sub, please get that absence entered as early as possible. Days, weeks in advance, great. We met with a rep from our new sub company. One of the things she said is that it's very challenging to get subs the morning of. It's almost impossible. Much more likely you're going to get coverage if you put your coverage in days or weeks before if possible. So that being said, a couple of new processes for subbing. If you need a substitute for a full day or a half day, these are the processes that Julie would like for you to take. The first thing that you should do is email Julie to see if a building sub is available. Again, this year we do have the luxury of having a number of excellent building subs. So if they're available, we'll always go that route. If Julie lets you know that yes, there is a building sub available, you enter your request, you click the button that says is a sub needed, and then you will actually assign that building sub that you and Julie communicate about, so you can actually plug in that sub's name. If there is not a sub needed, or if there's not a building sub available, you would enter your time off request, you would still click that sub needed, and then you would create the absence in ASAP as you normally would. There is a video link there too. Julie narrated a video showing you exactly all of those steps. So if you want a little quick video tutorial, you'll see a link there for you. If you have a sub, if you need a sub for less than a half day, so a class period or a little over, we would ask that you find coverage with a colleague. You would email teachers that have a prep that hour that you're going to be gone that could cover. And then you would share the name of staff covering and sub-plans with Julie. And again, there's a video tutorial that Julie created that you can see the link here in the presentation document you can click on, and she will walk you through that. So any questions, feel free to reach out to Julie Rosansky, but those tutorials are very helpful. One of the changes you will also notice this year is that we are no longer using the paper pay vouchers. So those pay voucher forms that you're used to signing if you're doing a supervision or if you're at an IEP meeting, we're no longer using those. So instead we're going to be using TrueTime, which I know many of you have used, but a lot of us have not. So if you need to get paid for any kind of coverage, you'll actually be using your TrueTime account. And there's a couple of different ways that you can learn about that. So the first time that you attend a meeting or a training that you're paid for or that you're doing a supervision, I would click on, you could either click on the link here to watch a video that walks you through it from Julie, or there's a document from district office that again shows you some visuals and some step-by-step guidance. So again, for some staff this will not be new, but I would say for most of you that have not used TrueTime before, it will be a change. I want to transition a little bit into our summer work group. The last few years we've had some staff that have met over the summer, and the goals were really to look at our school rules and policies for the next fall. And we held a group again this summer, and we really wanted to look at some data first. We looked at staff survey data, so staff in the last weeks of the school year gave some feedback on kind of what went well, what didn't go well, what are changes they'd like to see, what are things they would like to remain. So our group looked at that survey data from staff. We also looked at some Infinite Campus discipline and attendance data. And this group decided that we really wanted to focus our efforts on 3 main areas to make some changes for this upcoming school year. And the group decided they wanted to focus a little bit on backpacks. We also focused on tardies and MITs, and you'll see kind of the relationship between those 2 categories. And then also revisiting cell phones, which is something the group has revisited each summer. Wanted to give some thanks to the people that were instrumental and part of the summer work group. Scott McElroy, Susan Bishop, Scott Gudgel, Aaron Brond, Melissa Hahn, Steve Haker, Mitch McGrath, Sonia Boehm, Selena Walker, Jason Kling, Lisa Serini, and Christy Frontier. These are all people that dedicated their time and energies over the summer to try and make our school better for this school year. So please give your thanks if you see them. Here is what the summer work group decided on going forward, and you'll see a lot of these are not big changes, but I would say there's some clarification in some of these areas. The group talked about backpacks, and that was something actually the group talked about last year as well. There's kind of two schools of thought. Are we keeping backpacks? Are we not? We kind of went back and forth on that, and we kind of talked about the pros and cons and logistics. Ultimately, our work group decided that just like as we have in the past, backpacks are to be kept in lockers during class time. So students should not be bringing backpacks to any of their classes. The exception obviously being PE, where they have locked gym lockers. But we should not have students bringing backpacks in the classroom, stashing them in the hall, stash them in the back of your room. We want to be uniform about that. So our work group talked a little bit about what would be kind of the offenses for noncompliance. So if a student brings a backpack to your class or resource area or study hall, the first time that you are going to send them back to their locker, and you're going to mark them tardy unless they make it back before the start of class. Please have a conversation with students about that, about why, and that's kind of the first offense. The second offense, so if you have students that after you've given them warning, after they've kind of done it once, then we would ask that you submit a behavior referral in Infinite Campus, and then an administrator will kind of take it from there, have conversations, levy consequences as needed. So that was an area that our group reached a consensus on with backpacks. So tardies, we decided that we wanted to reconfigure the definition of a tardy. Previously, we had a tardy being any time that you arrived to class within 20 minutes. And our team really felt like that is much too long of an allotment of time for being tardy. And that's not being tardy, that's missing a lot of class. So what our group decided was that we are going to change a tardy to being 5 minutes. So if a student will be considered tardy, unexcused, if arriving within the first 5 minutes of the start of class without a pass. And we thought that was a nice, clean benchmark. And beyond that, we felt like this really should be an MIT. So to give a little bit of context, the 20-minute cutoff for tardies was based on an attendance model where we didn't have MITs at all. We really needed a cutoff mostly for truancy of what was the time period that we felt was acceptable when something went to truant or not truant, and we used a 20-minute cutoff. We don't need that anymore. Because we have an MIT attendance marking, we really don't need to have that 20-minute cutoff, so we got rid of that. And so again, just to reiterate, if a student comes late to your class without a pass and is within the first 5 minutes, they should be marked tardy. The other change that we wanted to make, just to take a little bit off the plate of staff and also for some consistency, is in the past we had asked staff upon the second tardy in a class that the teachers would write a behavior referral for tardies. We are not asking staff to do that anymore. That was, I would say, a policy that was kind of from pre-COVID for the most part. Again, if a student is late a second or third or fourth time to your class, you do not have to write a behavior referral. The only thing we would ask is that you please notify the AP for your grade if you're noticing a pattern of unexcused tardies, and we'll take it from there. But that kind of automatic 2 tardies and referral, that we're letting go of. So with that kind of redefinition of a tardy, we also wanted to kind of offer a little bit of clarity and some flexibility with what an MIT means as a marking as well. And so an MIT, we'll just read you kind of the definition we came up with, and you'll see how this pairs with tardies. An MIT marking is missing class for an unreasonable amount of time or for an unapproved reason. Students may be marked MIT if they are gone for longer than 5 minutes, and if students arrive late to your class after 5 minutes without a pass, they should be marked MIT, not tardy. And the rationale that this group came up with, again, like I mentioned earlier, is that when we had the MIT as like you're gone for 10 minutes or more, that was the benchmark that students were using for breaks. So they know, like, well, if I take a 10-minute break every class, I can't be marked MIT. And we found that didn't work. We had a lot of students taking super long breaks, and they were missing a lot of class just because our benchmark really didn't fit. So we're moving away from like MIT being a set time, so it's not just based on minutes gone, partially to honor teacher discretion and to attempt to minimize the length of student breaks. So again, that idea that we had last year is like an MIT is like being gone 10 minutes or more. It's not based on time anymore. It's based on the student is gone for an unreasonable amount of time, like longer than you agreed upon, or for an unapproved reason. So, if you set a parameter for a student that wants to go get a drink and leave your room, and you say, okay, I need you back in 5 minutes, and they're gone 7, 8, 10, 20 minutes, they should be marked MIT. Or if the student leaves your class or is not where they're supposed to be, they ask to go to the library and then they're up on the 3rd floor talking to friends, that is an MIT. So again, wanted to give a little bit of flexibility on that for staff. A couple of other just things for clarification for MITs. MIT is an attendance marking, it is not a behavioral one. So you do not need to write behavior referrals for MIT. So if a student is MIT, you do not need to write a behavior referral for that. Also, because it's an attendance marking, not a behavioral marking, if a student is like inattentive or off task in your class or has their head down, that is not a reason to do an MIT. An MIT is an attendance marking. The other thing that some staff had some questions about in our work group that we thought we could clarify for everyone is like, well, what happens with an MIT? So I mark student as an MIT, what happens next? So Melissa Hahn and I get daily reports of all of our truancies and MITs, so we get a list of that. And MITs are unexcused absences, and they're treated very similar to a truancy. So if a student was to miss a whole class or a whole day or be an MIT, it all comes out in kind of the same report for unexcused absences. And so those are treated similar. Students will get behavior consequences for that, whether that's detentions or Saturday schools. MITs also do contribute to truancy, so that can lead for students for getting cited and getting habitually truant markings. The last main area that our summer work group talked about was cell phone policy. The consensus of the group was that for the most part our cell phone policy has worked well, and we certainly do not want to backtrack on it or make it easier or lighter. We did talk about the inconsistency and the trickiness of enforcing some of the real strict kind of no exceptions policies we put in place last summer. And so I want to just kind of talk you through just some slight variations of how this group thought we could maintain kind of the rigor of our cell phone policy, but also give staff a little bit of flexibility to honor kind of their particular style or choices. And so essentially students are not to have cell phones or earbuds out during class. Phones and earbuds can be stored in classroom pouches or away on their persons. So the big change that we added was that last phrase. The guidance that we set forth for staff is that all staff were using the pouches in every class and every environment. And we realized that teachers wanted a little bit of autonomy because that frankly was not happening in every class in every way. We had some teachers that had very successful policies, particularly with upperclassmen, that as long as their phones are out of sight and not on their they're not seen during the class period, they're fine with that, and that worked really well for them. So we wanted to add that flexibility. So again, the second line here to read, teachers may take either approach above, but students may not be on cell phones during the class period except for designated breaks. So teachers, it's up to you to decide if you want to have students use the pouches or if you want to just have clear expectations for cell phones are not going to be seen in class. They should be on their persons or in their lockers. It's up to you, but you need to make that very clear with your classes and kind of stick to it. Our start of class procedures, regardless of kind of which way that you decide to go, I would say are fairly similar. If you are having students, if you're using the pouches, which a lot of teachers have used very successfully and likely will continue to use this year, procedures are the same as last year. Students check in their cell phone in the classroom pouch. Students are assigned a number by their teacher and they leave their phone in the pouch for the rest of the hour. And again, if that works for you, great, keep doing it. Or with this new flexibility, the start of the hour, students would be reminded to keep their phones and earbuds off and out of sight at the start of the hour, and they must remain out of sight and not in their use the rest of the hour. So again, that's up to your discretion. Some notes about once class starts, and again, wanted to have some rigor, but also realize a little bit of flexibility and autonomy with our teachers. Your teachers may allow for predetermined tech breaks when students can access their phones. When breaks are over, students should return their phones in a similar manner to the start of class so that there's not a change there. Teachers may allow for students to listen to music during work time on their phones. If you do that, please set clear, consistent boundaries and expectations and use that sparingly. And then one of the things that we really want to hit this year, which I know is difficult, but this would be something I think if we all work on, can make things much better. Students may not take their phones with them when leaving the classroom, using the classroom hall pass for quick trips out of the room. So for instance, if a student asks to go use the bathroom or get a drink of water, the expectation is if their phone is not already in a pouch, that they either give you your phone or they put their phone in a pouch when they go to another area of the building. And again, I know that's tricky because you may have students that tell you, I don't have my phone on me, it's at home or it's in my locker. There's not necessarily a great way to verify that, but if a student is found in a hallway or you see a student take the phone out on their way out, that would be a cell phone violation, and that is something that we could certainly work with the student on and remind them of our expectations. So again, that's a tricky area, but that is one of the benefits of using the pouches in your classroom is that you're not going to have students leaving your class to just wander the hall on their cell phone or to go check their messages. And then our end of class procedures are very similar. If you have the students that have phones in their pouches, you dismiss them a minute or two before the bell rings to get their devices and before the end of class. We are going to have students that are not going to follow our expectations. We know that. In terms of like the kind of range and chain of consequences, just very briefly talk you through kind of our procedures, and these are very similar to last year. The first time that a student violates your cell phone expectations in your class, we'll ask that you conference with the student, you reiterate your policy and expectations. The student either puts the device in their pouch or out of sight, depending on your policy. You do not need to submit any kind of behavior referral. There's nothing that goes into cell phone tracker. So the first instance is really just a conference with some expectation setting. The second incident, you would actually fill out the cell phone tracker. And this would be very similar to what we used last year very successfully. There is a link here in this presentation document that you can click on to see the cell phone tracker. I would also recommend starring it and putting it in your bookmarks bar just as a document that's really easy to use. But you basically are just going to put in, like, you know, the second time that a student has violated your expectation, you fill out the cell phone tracker, and then we meet with the student and we are assigning detentions. The third and the fourth incident, you'll see it's a very similar process. You're submitting a cell phone tracker, and then the consequences for students start to amp up. For the third incident, a student is losing phone privileges for the next school day, so they're checking their phone into the office or with an administrator. When we get into the fourth incident and beyond, we're talking about Saturday school. It could be OSS. It could be loss of phone privileges for days, weeks, et cetera, in working with parents. And so that kind of escalating discipline will be very similar to last year. And then just a general note, if you have any situation where students are being, they're causing a disruption, they're being very non-compliant, they're refusing to do anything that you're asking, contact the office. You can give a call to the office, you can send a chat to administrator, we'll be up there to support you, or you could send a student down to the office and just let us know why the student is coming, and we'll certainly help with that. A little bit of information on the slide I won't share with you, but if you are looking for kind of talking points to share with students when you are kind of selling your cell phone plan or pointing out the benefits of a cell phone free classroom, there's some talking points there, and there's also some research that you can click as well. Moving on to behavior, just some general notes for returning staff. This is something that you are used to, and with new staff, we talked with you about this last week. Please submit your behavior management plans to both Melissa and to me within the first 2 weeks of the school year. And again, this can be done individually, or it can be done with a course team or a department, just kind of outlining your key behavior expectations for the year and thinking through your response in those situations. And again, the purpose of a behavior management plan is that so administration can support you, and so we know the expectations and we can hold students accountable for them while they're in your classrooms. Please think about how and when you will teach those classroom expectations and routines in the first few weeks with all of your classes, resource centers, study halls. It does not all need to be done at the very first start of every hour on the first day of school. But as you're going through those first couple of days or weeks, just think about how are students going to know what's expected of them? How do you want them to do things, access things? What kind of procedures or do you want to have in place so your school year goes smoothly? There's a link here as well, just if you want some more guidance in creating your behavior management plan. There's some kind of sample prompts that some of you have seen before. We also have lots of examples in the office, so you could see Jason or Melissa if you have any questions about that. Going into behavior a little bit more, some of you may or may not know, but the campus support position has been eliminated in our building, and so that first statement has always been true, but is definitely going to be more true with the absence of campus support. That we all share a responsibility to keep our schools safe, our halls clear, and students accountable for their actions and decisions. So a couple of things that I think if we all do, we can make our school year successful and safe. And again, none of these are new. It's just good for us all to pay a little bit more attention to these and be a little bit more consistent with them. Our summer work group had very strong feelings that our last 10 guidelines worked really well last year. So we would ask that staff continue to honor those. So again, a reminder for what that means is that if a student is asking to get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, go to their locker. We're going to ask that you do not release students during the first 10 minutes of the hour or the last 10 minutes of the hour. Students can wait. We also felt like that gives students an opportunity to, be more accountable. They know they need to have their materials, they need to be on time because they know they're not going to be leaving the first 10 minutes of class or the last 10 minutes of class. The other thing, just to reiterate, is that we're requiring students to take a pass. That makes it much easier for us to see who's in the hall that needs to be and who is there that shouldn't be. Please make sure you have a permanent classroom pass that is labeled with your room number. And that would be used for students to go to the bathroom, go to their locker, get a drink of water, etc. And pink passes should be used for visits to other locations. So if a student is asking to go to a resource center or go to the office or go to visit another teacher during a prep hour, you are writing a pink pass. Calling ahead is always a great idea, just to make sure that there's another adult on the other end and you can trust that the student's doing what they say they're going to do. So again, those would be great things to check as you're getting your classroom set up. Other things that, as I mentioned earlier, requiring students to leave their phones in a pouch or with you when leaving the classroom to get a drink, go to the bathroom, etc. Just making that a good practice would be hugely helpful, because we know that a lot of the times that students are asking to do those things and leaving your classroom is basically to be on their cell phone, which creates all kinds of problems, not just them missing instruction, but kids messing up and doing things they shouldn't be doing. Another thing that a lot of staff has been helping administration with, is greatly appreciated, is pop in the bathrooms every once in a while. When you're going from one area of the building, just popping your head in, just to make yourself visible. If you're seeing bathroom doors that are closed, prop them back open, reopen them. Those are all great things that you can do. If kids are used to seeing adults in bathrooms and public spaces, they're much less likely to do dumb things. And then also the last thing, which staff are awesome about doing, is please send chats to me and to Melissa when you're noticing hall wanderers, things that are suspicious, things that you want us to take a look into. That is super helpful. As you're getting your classroom set up for kids coming back, a couple of things just to check, just kind of a little safety security inventory. Please check that you have the following things in your room. You should have an e-pack, which is like a blue drawstring bag. It's probably on a hook by your door. Please make sure that you have one of those. And inside that bag, you have a clear sleeve that has both a red and a green sheet. Those are going to be used for evacuation drills, and we'll actually talk about those at the first staff meeting. Please look for a number of maps that should be on your walls. One of them should be a white map that shows your evacuation route out of the building. The other should be a blue severe weather map that shows where you go in the case of a shelter. And you should also have a colored map of campus that has some kind of different zones, like an aerial photo of the school with colored evacuation zones. Again, that will be used for evacuation drills. We'll talk more about that at our first staff meeting. And then if you have a phone in your room or your office, please make sure that you have a blue emergency contact card. It's a small little card, either taped to your phone or near your phone. If you're missing any of those items, please email me and I will get those to you. Staff social. Wednesday, August 28th, you are invited, along with partners or significant others, to join us at the Waypoint Public House at 4 o'clock to ? And we'll have some appetizers provided, some food. Drinks are on you, but a nice opportunity for staff to catch up a little bit, have some adult beverages, and just relax a little bit and build some community. So that will be on Wednesday at 4 o'clock. We encourage you to come. You can mark that on your calendar. And finally, just some important upcoming dates for you to calendar as we're thinking about September. There's a lot of activities going on in September. We will have our first staff meeting on the first day of school in the IMC at 3:45. For new staff, our first new staff meeting will be on September 5th, which is that Thursday at 7:30 a.m. in the main office conference room. September 6th, if you as a staff member have not had your picture taken, or for students that have not had their picture taken either, all day on September 6th, which is a Friday, you can get your picture taken at the high school. Looking ahead, September 11th will be a very busy day. That will be our first advisory day. We will also have our activities fair at the very end of the school day, and we'll have some more information for you about that at 3:15. And then that is also back to school night for our parents to meet you and go through their student schedule. That will be at 6:30. September 18th will be our first ACP day. The 23rd is a staff in-service day, so that is a no day or no school for students day, but that is a in-service day for us. And then also looking ahead, if you're wondering about homecoming, our homecoming week is September 30th through October 5th, with the homecoming dance being on October 5th. So I appreciate you sticking with me on this long video. Again, this document that I narrated will be available to you, so you can click on all of these links and see what you need to see, and you will have an opportunity to ask some questions at Welcome Back based on the information that I presented. So thank you for your attention, and let's have a great start to the school year.